Good evening and welcome to the Attitude Shift. I can't even slide into the garage tonight because I'm outside of the garage. I got kicked out of the garage tonight. Why? Because we decided we want you to see our faces. And so now you get to see us. As uncomfortable as we may be, because I have on clothes and Siobhan has on clothes. And I think Abby might be in the bed
I am, but I have clothes on.
and she has on clothes. We're going to do the show a different way tonight. So I'm going to put some energy in it, and I'll explain why I'm a little low on fuel right now when we get into the show. The topic of our show is addiction. And no, I don't have one. I had one. I don't have one now. But we're going to talk about that tonight. And it wouldn't be a show without me shifting the gears and getting some light shining across my face. Without my partner in crime, my road dog, turning corners with me, Siobhan Shaw. I love how the light is kind of coming over my face, but I'm going to say this before I bring you in and start talking. You know what? This is new to us too. So if you're expecting like perfection the first go around, you're not going to get it. Maybe the third go around, maybe when I have another garage, hell, maybe a month from now. I don't know. It's about the attitude shift. How do you shift your attitude when you see us? That's what it's all about. We're shifting as we go along. Let's see what you can do. How you doing, Siobhan?
I'm having fun, It's different because you do have to look at the camera, and I can't be playing around with things and doing all the things I usually do on Blog Talk Radio on the internet. But it's great to see your face, and yes, you are shiny tonight.
That's okay. I'm glowing, man. I'm glowing.
So addiction, we're going to talk about addiction, and I also want to introduce our new co-host and our new producer, Abby DeVera. She's on the screen with us as well. She's in from LA. That's where she's
Los Angeles, La La Land, Hollywood. I'm so proud of you. Thank you.
I'm the one who's in La La Land all the time.
No, I'm in La La Land. I have a glow about me today. I always wanted to glow, so... Yeah, but we're going to talk about addictions. I'm going to scoot back just a little bit. This is live, so hope I don't show things that don't need to be seen. That should be a little better. We don't want to get that R rating before we even get started. Get booted off before we even get started. So let's talk about let's get right to the shift. And the reason why as always, we pick shows on the fly. We pick shows that have to do with us. Our lives, what we're shifting about. And as many of you know from learning about us before when we first started, that, I was an addict. And for years, I suffered with addictions, from alcohol to cocaine. I suffered addictions. As they say, once an addict, always an addict. So in defense of myself, I guess I should say I'm always going to be that way. But it's not about me tonight. It's about maybe things that led up to me getting as far off as I did with having a mom who couldn't look at me and say, my daughter's an addict. For a mom that believed that her daughter, who was so good and organized and neat and OCD and everything, that she could not be an addict, because our eyes, our visuals tell us that an addict is someone that's always scratching and they look really bad. They have bad teeth. They let themselves go. Their hair is bad. Their nails are bad. Their face is all marked up. That's what, we see the face of an addict back then. And I didn't fit that bill. There's a new face of addiction today. And you know what? I am the new face. I'm the new face. I'm a mom. I'm a mom with kids. And it's so easy to get a prescription of painkillers. It's so easy to go into the doctor and say, my head hurts. It's so easy to get these things for someone like me that, like I said, I'm the new face.
The soccer mom. You go to your soccer game and look around. How many of the moms are actually hooked on some kind of prescription drug?
Absolutely.
It might not be a street drug. It might not be heroin or one of those things. But there's all kinds of drugs out there. There's one, I'm learning all about this because I'm doing some work for a friend who's in the drug abuse and treatment business.
Right. And go ahead.
And there's like all these street drugs, and they have all these names, like Klonopin is called pins, and they give them cool names, so then people will take them. Right?
Yeah, and it's not just so people can take them. Let me tell you, another reason why they're cool names is there's a drug that's called Molly. And if you're a mom and you're out of the loop and you hear your kids say, we're going to go pick up Molly, you're not going to think your kid's about to go get high. You're not going to think that. You're not going to think that when they say they're going to see the white girl, that they're going to buy a certain drug. It goes over our heads because we, A, don't want to think our kids are doing these things, and B, we're not educated. We're not educated. I'm going to show you a visual.
Where's that from?
This is from someone that I know, someone that is fighting right now.
And what's it used for?
It's called a rig. This is a rig.
A rig?
It's a rig. Street term is a rig. The needle. You can go to Walgreens and tell them you're a diabetic and you need this, and they'll give it to you.
So you don't have to prove you're diabetic?
Nope. Depends on where you live. In Louisiana, they're starting to crack down on it. But believe you me, it's as easy as going into Burger King and asking for a burger and fries. Mm-hmm. You can now have it your way.
Wow.
So.
And what kind of drug does that transport?
Heroin. Speedballs, which is heroin and cocaine. Suboxones, which is a drug that is used to counteract the effects of heroin, but it is also a drug that is highly abused because it's easy to get. You can pay someone $40 and they will give you a strip of theirs.
You know, how many people have this attitude that I don't need to be educated on drugs? When I was younger, I knew everything about the drugs of the time, right? You know, how many people on this show have done drugs at some point in their lives, right? And how many of the people listening to the show at some point, you know, 20, 30 years ago, tried drugs of some kind, right? So we think we know.
And these aren't your mother's drugs anymore.
Right.
These aren't your mother's drugs. This isn't going up in, going around the corner and sitting in the park smoking a joint. Yeah. This isn't like that. This isn't, doing that. This isn't doing a line of cocaine. This isn't like that. This is back to the, as I say now, back to the future. We're going back, but it's so intense now because they have so many things that they can do to it now. There's so many chemicals that you can add. You have drugs that are being mixed in a bathtub. You have drugs, they have meth, that they're blowing up each other in houses, meth labs. These are people that you will stand in line at the grocery store. In Louisiana, you can't buy certain things now that's used to make meth. You now have to get your cough medicine and cough drops. You have to get those things from behind the counter, and you've got to show your driver's license. Now, I want to back up because I'm telling you, you can walk in and get this, but you now can't walk in and get a certain type of cough lozenges because they're used to make methamphetamine. Excuse
me, I had to cough.
Right, but I can go get this.
Yeah.
So it's, and really, it's not your mom's drugs anymore. It's not going in there and getting in the liquor cabinet and tipping back the vodka and saying, oh, got a good buzz. Now we're injecting in our cars. We're injecting in our homes where our children lie asleep. Our children are doing it. And because we don't realize the face of an addict any longer. it's no longer the guy on Skid Row or the prostitute. It's our children. It's my child.
You've had it pretty rough the last few days, haven't you?
Yes. I have been without sleep almost, this will be 3 days if I get through tonight.
And can you share with the audience why you're not sleeping?
Because I'm watching over my daughter. She's 24 years old. And she got involved with the wrong drugs, thinking it was okay. I have this under control. I'm watching her walk in the shoes that I walked in. That's what she's doing. She's walking in my shoes, except it's a much more powerful road she's on. And it's so easy to get. In my day, it wasn't so easy to get. Now you can get it anywhere. And you can pick up the phone and get it. And I'm the kind of mom that I never say my kids will never do, because I am an addict. And believe it or not, I believe that those traits and genes are passed along. And it's a hit and miss. And when I realized that something was wrong, it wasn't that it was too late. It was just, I was so afraid. I was so afraid that you don't want to push that button too hard because you're afraid they're going to go away. And I would hold my breath to wait for a knock at the door or a phone call for someone to tell me that I need to come down, that to identify my child's body. So I didn't want to push that button. I didn't want to push that envelope until a few days ago when we had a conversation about how much she had changed in just a matter of 10 days. And within those 10 days, I watched my daughter sink. And I knew, but I just didn't want to push that button, because I know when my mom pushed my button, what happened to me. So I waited for her, which I don't advise anybody to do that. I think if you know, you better come right at them and hit them with it hard. But I didn't. I waited because I knew her time was coming, that she would need to talk about it. It had gotten too far out of her control. And so she came to me and brought me everything that she had, which included several of these. And then began the long process of getting her system cleaned out. And that's a process. It's a process. And so that's what we're doing right now. We are cleaning out, detoxing. I don't have the means to be able to put her somewhere nice. So the nicest place I can think of is at home with me.
Well, and there's an attitude I want to talk about, because when I heard that, I was shocked that there was no help for her because she doesn't have insurance. You guys aren't made of money, so you can't send her to some fancy recovery center. And I thought, that is just, what an attitude to have, what an attitude for a nation and the world to have, is that you, as people, we won't, as a community, we are not there to help the people that have gotten themselves addicted to drugs. It's not necessarily their fault. We can all say, you know, she should have known better, we should have known better, but we've all been in some situation like that. And the thing is there's this whole big thing about the war on drugs, right? The war on drugs.
But it's a big war. They're trying to get the big guy. You know, they're trying to get the Colombian drug lords. They're trying to get all the big guys with everything coming in. But they're missing in the neighborhoods. They're missing the soccer moms. They're missing the teachers. They're missing the preacher. They're missing the old lady across the street that doesn't think that she's taking all these OxyContins to feel better because she had back surgery, that she's not addicted. We're forgetting about those people because we're looking far beyond. We're going into other countries and we're trying to do all this. It's right here. It's right here.
So the war on drugs, yeah, the war on drugs needs to start at home, and it needs to start with all kinds of services available for free resources to help people to get off drugs, because it's the people that don't have the money
or the job,
right, or the job.
That's right, Abby, or the job.
So let's shift the attitude here. Let's start the war on drugs at home. First of all, educate ourselves on what these different things are. A Molly? I would think that if my nieces and nephews told me they were going to go pick up Molly, I'd be like, oh, is she nice?
That's right. That's exactly right. But that's the new way of doing things. And we're not being educated. We're not teaching. We're not having the town hall meetings to say, to put it up on the visual and say, this is Molly. You know, this is white girl. You know, we're not doing that. We're so busy saying it's not in our neighborhood. It's not in our school. My kids go to a great school. It's not in my school. We're so busy doing that. And in my calls yesterday, I was calling around various places, and there was a list that said, you know, free places that were free. Oh my gosh. Well, when I call, they're all filled, no beds available, and because it's free.
Mm-hmm.
And then I called one place, and it was $2,000 a week.
Wow.
A week.
Wow.
And so you have to stop and think. We're doing these things at home, like I told you last night. I have never been more afraid in my life than I was last night. Never.
And why is that? Because you're not equipped.
Because I'm not equipped. My sister came and checked on my daughter, and I could use my experience. But like I said, these are more potent drugs. These are different chemicals that are being put in the body that I'm almost 53, that I don't even know anything about. So yes, you know, when she starts, you know, she's hallucinating, and heart rate was really fast, and pain, and can't sleep. You can't put something on top of that. You know, you can't just say, okay, well, here, take these Valiums, you know. Oh, yeah, I got a handful of that. Right. You can't put things on top. So you have to create now an enemy, because I told her, you're going to hate me before you love me again.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hate me. But I would rather have her hate me for a short amount of time, and Friday that my daughter steps outside and breathes in some fresh air and feels better than me saying, let me run and get something for you to take the edge off. I just can't do that. And we have parents that are so blind to this. Mm-hmm. We have parents, we have teachers. We train teachers to teach our children. We turn our children over 8 hours a day to teachers. But some of the things, I believe there should be a drug reinforcement class. They have the program called DARE, mm-hmm. which, you know, helps with that. But I think there ought to be more. I think the law enforcement should come in. I believe that, you know, there should be more done. We teach sex education in school. Let's teach about the drugs. Let's get parents also in on some of this.
Okay, so what you're going to hear from people, though, is if we teach them about drugs, so like there's this whole group that think the same about sex ed. Mm-hmm. If we teach them about drugs, then they're going to know it, and then they're going to go out looking for it, because, you know, kids always want to do opposite of what their parents want them to do, right?
Yeah, so, you know what? I think if it's taught the right way, I mean, you're not going to catch everybody. Let's just be honest. You're not. But I feel strong that if it's taught the right way, and if it's consistently taught, and it's taught hands-on with parents there, you know, you just don't throw the kid in the class the parent has to, come. And parents are going to say, well, I don't have time to come off work. I don't have time. That's the thing. We're all geared to know we have to go out and make a salary. We all know we have to do that. But what's more important? If I would have had a regular job, I would have missed 2 days to stay home. And I wouldn't have cared. I don't care. Because I would rather miss the job than bury my child. So we have to put priorities in order. We have to remember, that they are the future. And people say that's the corniest line ever, but they are the future. I mean, my daughter is future generation. So I want her to have the best opportunity that she can have at being a good, productive citizen. And so if it means that when she's young, in the 5th and 6th grade, that we start doing these drug classes, then we need to do that. Because we are turning a blind eye. Mm-hmm. We are really, it's a white elephant in the room. I know parents who will not confront their children because they're afraid. Mm-hmm. I know parents who won't go look in their children's drawer. Let me tell you, I flipped mattresses in my daughter's room. I flipped mattresses. I went through her things. I confronted her once I got to that level that I was going, she's going to die. She's just going to freaking lay here and die. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to wake up and find her whole body in the bed. So I said, you know what? We talked about it, so now I've got to go in here and do something about it. So we cleaned her entire room. We took everything, anything that remotely could trigger has been removed from her room. And, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about what she must be going through. Mm-hmm.
She's going through some hell. She's got to be.
I watch her walk so slow like an old person just to get in the tub. I slept next to my daughter last night, and I say slept. They have the saying, one eye open. Mm-hmm. And I kept my hand on her heart. Because I didn't want to be the one that had to lay there and do that. I didn't. I would have loved to have had my husband do it. I would have loved to have just given that to somebody else to do. But if she was going to die last night, she was not going to be by herself. She was going to be with me. And if we don't stop letting these kind of things be easy to go in the stores and get, I've only just begun. Because when she's well, I'm going to make public things. I want to talk to Walgreens why it's so easy. I want to go and ask her friends. You call my daughter your friend. And I read your text messages to my daughter. That's what we have to do. We can't be afraid. We can't be afraid. People, I told you, Siobhan, that I was considering going to the sheriff. Mm-hmm. We can't be scared because it's our kids. It's our kids, and we can't be afraid. And it's If it's something we know, we better say something.
Mm-hmm.
We better start speaking up,
Mm-hmm.
because we're creating a nation full of addicts.
Mm.
And that's that's a nation, an attitude that we need to shift as a nation, as a world. We need to stop sweeping things under the carpet. We need to start being bold and brave and 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 paying attention and educating ourselves and going out there and talking to the people and asking the tough questions of your children, of the people that your children are associating with, and the people that are selling these, just like the paraphernalia, right? So it's so important that we shift attitudes on this, and
We can't be scared anymore, and you said it. And we always use um this word can be used in everything. Aware. Being aware. You can apply that tool to anything in your life. Being aware. You have to be aware of what's going on around you. A lot of people say, well, I don't watch the news because I don't want to know. I don't read the paper because I don't want to know. I don't get on the internet because I don't want to know. You better know. You need to know. That's the thing. We've got to know. We're watching what's going on in other countries, and I'm going to say it because, again, it's like the elephant in the room, and I'm going to say it. We're worried about what's going on in other countries. We're worried about what happened, in Nairobi, or Haiti, or wherever. What about right here? What about right here? We send troops over to other countries. We need troops right here. We need to get to certain areas and be seen. We need to let these drug dealers and these people know that, what, we're a force to be reckoned with. We're right here. There used to be the neighborhood watches. People are so afraid to do neighborhood watches right now because they're afraid someone's going to burn their house down. They're afraid that retaliation. They are afraid of that. But I say, what is worth my daughter's life, my son? What? I'm gonna do what I can. I'm not afraid to point my finger, and I'm not going to be afraid. And I even told my daughter, I said, what? When I'm done, we may have to move. I gave fair warning to one of her friends yesterday. I said, I will put you on blast on Facebook if you come near my daughter again. Because I'm not afraid.
I just also wanted to touch on these rehabilitation centers. We want to get people in there, the affordable places that are free. There's a place out here in LA, and I love what they're doing because they don't just approach it in a physical sense of giving them what they need when they are detoxing, but they go in afterwards and they provide therapies. They provide group therapy, they provide artistic therapy, animal therapy, to get to the core of the issue so that there are no relapses, because that is a huge problem as well in this country. So even if people do have money to go to rehab, they do end up relapsing because they're not in the right program where they can get to the core of the issue of why they're turning to drugs in the first place, in order for them to function in life, in order for them to feel like themselves, in order for them to feel happy, to feel good, whatever it might be. So I do think that that's part of changing our attitude shift. I
love how you said that, Abby, getting to the core, because Siobhan and I talked about that last night when we talked about, because this isn't my daughter's first go-around. It was half-hearted before. This is the first time that it was more that I was forcing the issue. You've got to do this, you've got to do this. But it goes back to that self-awareness. She saw that she needed to do something. So she's like, okay, now I'm going to do something. But just like you said, now once we get her well, the physical well, where she's able to walk and hold down food and do that. Once we do that, we've got to even dig deeper. We've got to pull these layers back like, an onion. We've got to peel the layers back and get to the meat of it. And it may not be something we want to hear. As parents, you think, you know, oh, it's all their fault, it's this. I can tell you right now, and I'm going to say this in all honesty, that I know that some of what, and not that to take the blame, but I know some of what my daughter is going through goes all the way back to when we adopted children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we went from a family of 2 to a family of 5 in 30 days. And then from a family of 5 to a family of 9 at some time, you know, in a matter of months. There was a lot of layers being built on top of this 9-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I look back at my addiction, there was a lot of layers being built on top of me. When I can say when my dad left and my search for acceptance, you know, from guys, but yet my pushing them away. You know, we're building these layers, and at some point it's going to get either too heavy and we're going to implode, or someone's going to help us and help us start peeling back these layers and getting to that core, getting to what really makes us tick and what makes us grab for those drugs or that alcohol or the men or the sex. We're going to get to that, but it's not something I firmly believe that we can do on our own. I believe when you have that on you like that, that you need help. You need help, and you need someone with attitude, positive attitudes. You know, you need acceptance. That's the biggest thing in the world that a lot of these addicts don't get, is acceptance. Religions don't accept. You know, the good old boys don't accept. Your straight-laced moms don't accept. We have to look at ourselves and say, if this was my kid, what would I expect them to be able to receive? What kind of help? And so with that in mind, you've got to go out there and start organizations. You have to start chat rooms. You have to start shifting like we're doing. You have to provide something for when the physical hunger is over, that they need to have that mental and in here done. And I feel that that's what's lacking.
Wow, it is. It's been a really interesting show. It is time to put the virtual red Corvette in park for the night. And I want to say to everybody, you've been watching The Attitude Shift, our first live broadcast on camera. Aha! And we were going to be coming to you. We will be coming to you every week. And so stay tuned, watch out for us, and we would love for you to join our Facebook page, The Attitude Shift, and find us on Google+, The Attitude Shift. And thank you so much, Abby, for running everything for us, making sure it's all hunky-dory. And Donna, great show. Time to say goodbye.
Time to say goodbye. Do I get to do my little, put your little...
Whatever you want.
You know, once again, now that you can see us, you see that we are people, just like you know, and we have problems, and we have issues to resolve. But what we have is a great toolbox. This is your toolbox, the attitude shift. And we're going to give you tools to put in your toolbox that you can pull out and use. So when you feel helpless, like I did last night, I had links, man. I had 2 links that were there pulling for me. You have links, a toe chain. You have people to uplift you. You have real life hitting you smack between the eyes. That's what you'll get every week with us in the Attitude Shift. I implore you to take advantage of it. That we're not just doing this because we really like to see ourselves on camera, but because we know that it's time. It's time for a hard shift. It's time to kick rocks on bad attitudes. It's time to peel back the layers and get to the meat of what's really going on with our attitudes. On behalf of Siobhan and Abby, you know, I don't even think I even said my name in the beginning. I'm Donna M. Butler, and we are going to shift you every week until somebody gets it right. Until we talk again soon. Peace out.